Apologies in advance for sounding pretty tired. This was a long weekend and some work on top of that. I'm feeling a bit drained. This is usually a rifle only match. Don't get to do very often. Most people only do some kind of pistol work, which is good, but every now and then it's nice to only use one type of ammo and not have that much gear with you. So the first stage is a limited round count, like 3 mags of 8 rounds each, and a lot of high value targets. The paper that just got zoomed in right now has 8 circles on it, various sizes. And if you missed a shot in one, it counted as a miss, so it was very high value. And I was the only one who shot the stage clean on the squad. I basically shot at the biggest circle, saw where my holdover was, and used that for the rest of the targets. Unusually for me, I'm not shooting anything out of the ordinary. I'm actually using an AR. This is my SOT mod clone that I built out of parts, the B5 stock of this rail, Neotech, and I'm shooting it suppressed because I hadn't shot a full match with that suppressor on this gun yet. Been smaller ones, nothing bigger like a Topton. And the AR, it turned out to be kind of boring in some ways, but I did learn some stuff. That suppressor, even with the heavier spring and H2 buffer and the PRI charging handle, still gas me pretty bad if I stay in one place and dump a lot of ammo through it. Which there wasn't a lot of that in this match. This stage was one of them, and the last stage was also another, where I finally started to notice all of the gas coming back through the gun. And the gas buster charging handle is really good at busting gas, but it can only do so much. And I actually ended up with a bunch of carbon on my face by the end of the match, just because of all the gas coming out the back. But the rest of the match was pretty uneventful. I wouldn't say there were any stages that really stood out to me as stuff that I would really want to do again. They were just kind of there. Not great, not terrible. The other thing that came up was we had to shoot through a horizontal slot, shoot some targets on the last stage, which you'll see later, and the combination of the suppressor, mainly the light, meant that I couldn't get the handguard all the way through, so basically I just had to deal with barrel deflection caused by the suppressor. Speaking of the suppressor, I zeroed this gun without it on, and I was shooting it just with the suppressor mounted, but I didn't change the zero settings on. And I made sure that I was still able to get holds at 200, but I didn't hold at 200. But that was on some larger targets, and you'll see later, Topton really likes to use these really small, they're probably like 8-inch maximum rifle targets at 200, which is very difficult to do. I've done it before with just a red dot and also with iron sights, but it's extremely difficult. I had a magnifier this time, luckily, but I don't think my point of aim was exactly where I thought it was, so it took some finagling for me to actually get hits, and took some experimentation at the longer distances. Shorter distances, obviously, it doesn't really matter. Deflection is only like, I don't know, maybe 3 m away or something. I put it on paper and it did deflect, but not by all that much. But as you know, the further out you get, the greater the deflection becomes. The gun itself actually ran fine. I switched over to using oil for the colder months because at the last match I used my Prem 2, it was still lubed with grease, and that caused the gun to not be able to strip the first round out of the magazine. So most of my guns are lubed with oil now. Should have known that before, but this is why you go to matches and learn these things. We're in a relatively low consequence environment. This stage, actually, I got second overall, which I'm pretty proud of. You can see my speed is really good. Those paper targets, key is to just dump rounds at them. Don't think about whether you got them in on hits or not. And then the steel targets were pretty easy. It was mostly pretty decently sized and at relatively close range. This is really what I'm talking about, where I can't get the handguard through the slot, so I'm trying with just my other hand to keep the barrel pressure to a minimum, but at some point I just give up and decide to just deal with it. Because of the light, can't get it to the slot. I'm not going to take the light off because the point of this gun is not to be good for competition. It's just to be an all-around practical rifle. I do use this gun at night shoots, so that light has to be there. And if I ever get into night vision, it's going to get a laser, which will make this problem even worse. But that's just the price you pay for being able to do things outside of a match environment, which I think is more important than just building a dedicated match gun. That's why none of my rifles are specifically set up as competition guns. I think it's more important because the reason I go to matches is to get better at shooting. It's not to be better at the match, it's to be better with a firearm in general and to be more skilled with it in situations outside of that. Matches are just good practice for learning how to handle your rifle effectively and safely and learning all kinds of different situations, but going to these situations you kind of learn what is realistic and what isn't. And so that's what I think the real takeaway from matches should be, is you have to go in with the right mindset of knowing the skills you want to practice, what you're going to practice at the match, and what you should take away from it. And in this case, my takeaway is, yeah, shooting through a narrow port is extremely difficult with this kind of setup, but I want to have that setup because it gives me the ability to do something, namely shoot in the dark, that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do. This is also why it's helpful to go do night matches whenever it's possible, because you learn stuff about your setup. You learn like where the best place is for your switch, best place to mount a light, what lights are worth the money and what aren't. Excuse me. You learn what kind of object setup is good to use at night with lights or nods if you have it. So it's just good to get this experience, and game matches are a good way to get it. And that's pretty much it. I'll let the footage run out and send me a video.